So for today's adventure, we're at the Chinook Pass Trailhead. We're going to hike the Pacific Crest Trail south into Dewey Lake. It's only about 3 miles to get to the lake. We chose this hike today because it's on the Pacific Crest Trail, which means we can take the dog. The other popular hike from here is the Natchez Peak Loop hike. Unfortunately, that hike takes you into the national park, and dogs aren't allowed on trails in the national park. So a little less than 3/10 of a mile, we're gonna hang left and take the footbridge across Highway 410. And at the half-mile mark, we're just crossing into the William O. Douglas Wilderness. And just for context, this video is taken on the last day of June, 2023.
Not yet. Oh, you got it now. Good job.
So almost 1.3 miles, we've made it just past or just south of the small unnamed lake that shows up in a lot of social media posts. We like to call this Truffula Tree Lake because of how the late season western pos flowers that grow here look. Anyways, it's been a steady climb, but very gentle to this point. So we've gained 297 feet of elevation so far. So 1.7 miles and 475 feet of elevation gain. We've just arrived at the pass that you climb to from Chinook Pass, and it's going to take us over to an overlook of Dewey Lake. And then it's going to be a fairly sizable drop down into Dewey Lake. So that's something to understand if you do the Dewey Lake hike, is you've got to gain elevation up to the pass. And then once you do that, you're going to have to do a fairly big drop down into the lake. And unfortunately, that means you have to climb back up that drop to get back to the trailhead. So 1.8 miles, you hit the intersection with the Natchez Peak Trail, and you hang a left to head down towards Dewey Lake. So 2 miles, and we're making the descent, or we're trying to make the descent down to Dewey. So just over 3 miles, we walk down a little spur to take a peek at the smaller of the Dewey Lakes, the much smaller of the Dewey Lakes. I think that's Seymour Peak in the background there. I saw one person camping too, so folks are already at it. So 3.4 miles, we're going to open up along the lake shore towards the south end of the lake. So 3.55 miles, we're down onto the south end of the lake, which is where we plan on having a snack. So we're gonna hang out here for a while and let the pooch swim. And then we're probably going to walk about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes further down the Pacific Crest Trail in a little bit. There is an open meadow that's absolutely gorgeous. So I think we're going to pick it up for this video just so you can see where it is and see how much further you have to walk to see it, but it's definitely worth it. And this is why we came today. We knew Nugget would want to swim. So the other reason we like hiking down to the south end of the lake is there's a natural spring. That's a very cold spring that's down here year round. So we're at 0.48 miles south on the Pacific Crest Trail, past the south end of Dewey Lake. And this is the meadow I indicated. If you walk just a little bit further past the south end of Dewey Lake, you can see that's Dewey Peak there in the background. Always beautiful when there's enough sunshine to see it peeking out over the top of the meadow. Anyways, like I said, this was less than half a mile to get here. So adds a mile onto the hike, but you get a beautiful meadow and mountain view. And from here, we'll head back towards Chinook Pass. So a little over 4.2 miles, we're headed back from the meadow. There's a trail junction with the Dewey Lake Trail, and we're going to turn right on that junction off of the Pacific Crest Trail, and we're going to take this side trail, which actually goes all the way out to the Missachi Creek Trailhead, I believe, but we're going to take this trail over so that we can get on the eastern shore of Dewey Lake, and we're going to walk the eastern shore back. So in other words, we're going to do a loop around the lake by doing this. The Pacific Crest Trail comes down the western shore. We want to walk the eastern shore because the views from the eastern shoreline of the lake are distinctly different than they are from the western side. Completely different perspective, and we want to pick that up. So about 4.5 miles into our hike, we're still on the Dewey Lake Trail. This is the bridge over Dewey Creek, and if I spin to the left, you'll see what you miss if you don't walk the eastern shore of the trail. So there's our first glimpse of Mount Rainier. If you only stay on the Pacific Crest Trail, you don't see Mount Rainier down at Dewey Lake. But as we walk the eastern lake shore back towards Chinook Pass, we should have views of Rainier. And then as soon as we cross this bridge, we're just gonna hang left and start looking for boot trails and kind of boot trail our way back towards the northern end of the lake. If I remember correctly, this route is marshy in spots. So we have spare shoes in the car. We're expecting probably to get wet feet on this adventure. So again, now we're taking the boot trails along that eastern lake shore. And so we're gonna have views of Rainier that you just don't get if you stay on the main trail. If you walk the trail exactly as it's shown in all trails, this is what you miss. So there's Rainier, and that's looking at Dewey Peak right there, which we saw from that meadow just a little bit ago. So again, the eastern lake shore, the views are much different than they are on the west side. So 5.36 miles, we are reconnecting onto the Pacific Crest Trail. We're gonna turn right and head back up towards Chinook Pass. What's our elevation gain so far, Beck?
640 feet.
640 feet of elevation total gained at this point. So we'll give you the elevation gain total when we get back up to the top of this climb. We're gonna start a big climb here, and that'll give you a sense of how big the climb is. So 6.4 miles, we're reconnecting with the Natchez Peak Loop. And this means that we're almost up to the pass. overlooking Dewey Lake. So 1,312 feet of elevation gain. We're back at the pass up above Dewey Lake, and now we're going to drop back down to the Chinook Pass Trailhead, which will be mostly downhill all the way. So just over 8.1 miles and a little over 1,400 feet of elevation gain. We're arriving back at the Chinook Pass Trailhead. So we're going to call Dewey Lakes in the bag. I could see a person rating this hike anywhere from easy to difficult, depending on their conditioning level, because it does have distance and elevation gain. For us, I think it was easy, but again, it just depends on conditioning level and the amount of weight that you're carrying, of course. Anyways, it's a fabulous hike, beautiful lakes. It was a nice swim on a hot summer day for the dog. Get outside.